What's up, viewers and subscribers? Welcome back to the Daily Scoop, where we keep you updated on the biggest conversations happening across Jamaican dancehall. Today's story is packed because the ongoing conversation involving Masicka and Skillibeng has taken another unexpected turn. What started with Masicka referring to Skillibeng as a dancer princess has developed into a much bigger lyrical conversation. Skillibeng answered with Zapper, and now another artist has entered the discussion. The artist is Intence. And let me tell you something, people. Intence did not exactly walk quietly into this conversation. He came with a record that fans are interpreting as a direct response to Skillibeng, while also making references that bring Masicka and Alkaline into the discussion. So now the questions are multiplying. Will Masicka finally respond? Will Skillibeng answer Intence? Could this develop into another Skillibeng versus Intence lyrical battle? And why is Vybz Kartel name being mentioned in the middle of all of this? We are going to break everything down, but before we get into it, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications, and share this video with somebody who follows dancehall. Let's get straight into it. So, to understand where we are today, we have to go back to the beginning. The current conversation gained momentum after Masicka released his album Forever Rain. One of the songs on the project attracted attention because of references that listeners interpreted as being aimed at Skillibeng. The phrase involving a dancehall princess and a crocodile became a major talking point among fans. Now, if you are familiar with dancehall, you already know what happened when one artist believes another artist has thrown a lyrical shot. The fans immediately become investigators. They start analyzing every word. They start looking at social media posts. They examine interviews. They go through old songs. And before you know it, the audience has already decided that a clash is coming. Skillibeng was not interested in simply allowing the conversation to pass. He responded musically with Zapper, and the title itself became part of the debate because listeners connected the imagery to the mosquito references surrounding Masicka. Skillibeng also made sure that there was very little confusion about who he wanted to hear the song. He tagged Masicka. That was significant because sometimes an artist can release a song and fans spend 3 days arguing about who the target is. Skillibeng basically eliminated that uncertainty. The message to the audience was essential. You know who I'm talking to, and that made the pressure on Masicka even greater. No, this is where things get interesting. A section of the dancehall audience has been waiting for Masicka to answer, but up to the point covered by this discussion, there has not been a full musical response from Masicka to Skillibeng, and the supporters have a very simple argument. They say Masicka is an established international artist. He has an album to promote. He has a career to manage. So why should he stop everything because another artist released a diss track? That is a legitimate argument. But there is another side. Dancehall fans have always loved lyrical competition. When one artist calls another artist out, the audience naturally wants an answer. So you have two groups. One side say Masicka should ignore it, and the other side says, if Skillibeng call you out, answer him. And that debate is not going away anytime soon. According to social media conversations surrounding the situation, Masicka responded to Skillibeng and also referenced Intence. That changed everything because Intence was not originally the main character in the Masicka Skillibeng discussion. Suddenly, his name was being brought into the picture, and Intence clearly was not planning to sit quietly. This is where the situation went from a two-man conversation to something much broader. Intence eventually released a song that fans interpreted as a response to Skillibeng. And people, this is where dancehall fans started paying close attention because Intence has history with Skillibeng. There are not two artists whose name have never crossed before. Their musical paths have intersected previously and fans remember the tension. So when Intence appeared to address Skillibeng again, people immediately started asking whether we are watching the beginning of another lyrical battle. And there is something interesting about Intence. He does not always approach controversy in the safest or most predictable way. His musical personality is naturally aggressive. His delivery can be dark, his imagery can be provocative. So when he decides to address another artist, fans expect him to come with something serious. One of the most discussed aspects of Intense Song is the way he appeared to reference Masicka. The general message interpreted by a listener is that Intense recognized the issue involving Masicka and Skillibeng, but is leaving that particular conflict for another person to deal with. And that is why people started saying Intence is talking to Skillibeng while simultaneously reminding Masicka that he is watching the situation. That is a very different dynamic. But now Masicka has another reason to pay attention. Imagine you are Masicka. You have Skillibeng addressing you. You have not responded yet. Then another artist enter the conversation and start talking about the same situation. No, you are no longer dealing with one artist, you are dealing with two. You are dealing with an entire conversation surrounding your name. That is one of the biggest questions. Some fans believe artists are deliberately trying to provoke Masicka into responding, but I would not go that far without hearing directly from the artists themselves. What we can say is that Masicka name has become part of the conversation, and when your name become part of a lyrical battle, fans naturally expect you to respond. But Masicka has another option. He can simply continue doing what he is doing, make music, promote his album, perform internationally, and let the other artists talk. Sometimes silence can be a strategy. Now, let's talk about Alkaline. Intense lyrics also brought Alkaline into the wider conversation. That is important because Alkaline and Masicka have been the subject of fan speculation for years. The internet has repeatedly tried to determine whether the two artists are truly engaged in a major rivalry or whether fans are simply interpreting competitive lyrics as something bigger. And that is something we have to be careful about. Dancehall is built on competition. Artists can mention each other, they can compare themselves, they can make subliminal reference. That does not necessarily mean there is an actual personal feud happening behind the scene. So when Intense mention Alkaline, the safest approach is to listen to the music and avoid turning every line into a confirmed storyline. And then, of course, there was Vybz Kartel. Kartel name continues to carry enormous weight in dancehall. According to the discussion surrounding Intense Song, there are references connected to Kartel and the idea of musical affiliation. That immediately caught people's attention because Skillibeng has also been associated with the Gaza movement and has had interaction with Vybz Kartel. But here is the thing, Vybz Kartel does not need to enter lyrical arguments involving artists who have some connection to him. His influence is already obvious. When his name is mentioned, fans react. But that does not mean Kartel himself has entered the conflict. There is a difference between an artist mentioning somebody and that person actually becoming involved. Now everybody wants to know what Skillibeng is going to do. That is the million-dollar question. Will Skillibeng answer Intence? Will he continue focusing on Masicka? Or will he decide that the entire situation is not worth his time? Skillibeng is already at a point where in his career where his music reaches beyond Jamaica. He has international listeners, he has major records, he has performed around the world, so he does not necessarily need to answer every person who call his name. But at the same time, Skillibeng has never been an artist who completely avoid lyrical competition. That's why people are watching. Let's be honest, sometimes the artists are not even doing as much as the fans. The fans take one line, another fan respond, then somebody posts an whole interview, someone else bring up a 5-year-old song, then another person say, remember when this happened? And suddenly we have a full-scale dancehall war that might not even exist outside of social media. That's why we have to separate three things: what the artist actually said, what the fans believe the artist meant, and what bloggers are saying happened. Those three things are not already the same. Now, let's move into another part of the discussion. Some people online have been calling Masicka the current king of dancehall, but not everybody agrees. One of the voice challenging that idea is Marlboro, who argued that the younger generation should determine who represent the next era of dancehall. That is an interesting argument because dancehall has always had different kings, different eras, different dominant artists. You had generations associated with names like Beanie Man, Bounty Killer, Vybz Kartel, Mavado, and many others. So when somebody say Masicka is the king, the question become king according to whom? But I want to know why the king title is so difficult. Imagine comparing somebody who has been dominating for 20 years with somebody who has been dominating for 5 or 6 years. They are playing different games. A veteran might have decades of influence. A younger artist may have stronger international streaming numbers. Another artist may have more street credibility. Another may have the biggest songs. Another may have the strongest live performances. So calling one person the king is always going to create an argument. And that's exactly what we are seeing now. Personally, I think the best thing that could happen is for the artist to let the music speak. If Skillibeng believes Intence crossed the line, give us a record. If Masicka believes Skillibeng need an answer, give us a record. If Intence want to continue, make another record. That's what dancehall is supposed to be about. Creativity, competition, lyrics, performance, entertainment. The audience does not need personal hatred. We need great music. So viewers and subscribers, that's where we are right now. Skillibeng versus Masicka has already created a major conversation. Then Intence stepped into the picture. Alkaline was mentioned. Vybz Kartel influence remain part of the wider discussion. Masicka position as a potential dancehall king is being debated. But now I want to hear from you. Should Masicka finally respond to Skillibeng? Should Skillibeng answer Intence? And most importantly, who do you believe is currently leading the new generation of dancehall? Masicka, Skillibeng, or somebody else? Drop your answer in the comments. Remember to like, subscribe, and turn on those notification bell for more dancehall updates. Until the next one, big up yourself, stay safe, and keep supporting Jamaican music.